I never ever thought I'd be in this position now. And I'm so grateful that I am, because, you know, it's allowed me to have so much more flexibility. It's allowed me to have so much more time. It's allowed me to follow the things I enjoy doing and the things I love doing. I can get to spend more time at home with the wife, although she doesn't appreciate that sometimes. I can see the kids go to their plays, go to their football matches, all that sort of stuff. I can pick and choose when I work, how I work, and like having that flexibility, especially at my age, is like unbelievable. So yeah, truly grateful.
So I am Simon Roberts. I am 43, just turned 43 actually this month. Live in London, lived in London pretty much all my life. Married with two children, Jacob, who's 12, and Maddie, who is 10.
Okay.
And I've
Okay.
been married for 13 years.
13 years. Okay. So you're old hat at this. I'm less than a year, as you know. So,
Yeah. Old hat. Yeah, still learning things every day, but
so
yeah. I'm
okay.
I'm getting by. I'm getting by.
Okay. Continuing learning process, this marriage thing, right?
Definitely, definitely.
So yeah, so what will you do? So I mean, so what do you do now as a career? What's your, if you tell everybody your.
Yeah, so as a career, so for the past, I'd say 2 years, I've been a photographer, professional photographer, full time. So I did do a lot of it part time for a very long period of time, but for the last 2 years, it's solely I've been concentrating on doing photography. So yeah, that is my main income. That is what I refer to myself as. That's that's what's in my bio on LinkedIn and on various other platforms. So yeah, I am a photographer.
And have you always been interested in photography?
So I would say yes, maybe for the last 20 or so years. I think when I at school I was always very artistic. I did art at school, I did design at school. So I always had like an artistic side to me, but I never did photography at school. It was only after I left school I picked up a camera, just one of those point and click ones. And I always used to be the guy who on a night out or when we're on holiday would be the one with the camera who would take the snaps. And that was just capturing moments and people. I always had an interest in capturing people. And then sort of later on in life, I got my first DSLR camera. And then that's when everything sort of seemed to click. So I think it was that change from film to digital when it sort of sprouted for me that actually, wow, okay, I really kind of enjoy this and I enjoy being able to see the photo as soon as I've taken it. Sort of instead of having to go through that Lightroom process, the darkroom process of doing it, that sort of instantaneous sort of look and being able to then manipulate and change and figure out things on the fly. That kind of I think is what sparked my sort of real interest in photography. So I'm definitely not an old hand when it comes to point and click and taking it in and putting it through a dark room and then sorting all that sort of stuff. I was very much in the digital era when my sort of love for it bloomed.
But that passion, so that passion's been there for a long time. It's not like it just suddenly, kind of sparked
Yeah,
in the
no,
last couple of years.
no, definitely not. It's been within me for a long time, and I think it's one of those things that I always had a burning desire to do something creative. I just didn't know what it was. So it's kind of always been there, but it's only really bloomed in the past like 10 or so years when I really sort of like nailed down kind of what I really enjoyed capturing and how I enjoyed mastering the craft.
That's interesting because you're so. Could you tell everybody your career before photography?
Yeah, so my career before, I studied law at university. I did the bar, and then I worked in the civil service in project management and policy. So yeah, two polar opposites to to photography and to what I'm doing now. So yeah, it was very much career driven, doing one of the sort of uh, careers that when you're younger, you're kind of like pushed into doing and thinking that that would be something that's going to be like a solid grounding and, you're going to get yourself, a good career, earn a good wage and be able to, yeah, have a comfortable life. So I think that was always what I thought my life was destined for and what I wanted to do. And to be honest with you, I did really enjoy it. I think the way my brain, I've got this weird and wonderful brain where I'm very analytical, so I think of things and things pop into my head, and I like to solve puzzles and work through scenarios. So I think law for me was very well built for me to do that. I really did enjoy it, but I wasn't getting that career fulfillment that my other peers were when they were doing the same thing that I was doing. I just looked at them and I could see the passion that they had for law, if you can have a passion for law, just wasn't there for me. So I always had that question as like, why am I not as happy doing this as these other people are? Why am I not pushing myself as much as I think I should be? So yeah.
See, we've got some parallels. So I studied politics and sociology,
Yeah.
but then after that, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I kind of was kind of pushed pushed, not in a kind of maybe
you must do it.
yeah, not in a you must, but it was almost like in the back of my head, I had an expectation that my family would want me to do this. So
Yeah.
I then did the postgraduate diploma in law, with a kind of view to becoming a lawyer.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like doing a degree in a year.
Yeah.
And it was really intense. And I passed it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I passed it, I was like, no, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And then since then, for the last few decades, I've been trying to figure out what is right. But yeah, you kind of went the sensible, as you said, the analytical route of like, actually, you've spent 3 years studying, you might as well, try and get into a career in it. So when you were studying law, was there ever that kind of wrestle between the photography and creativity kind of aspects of you and the legal side? Was there ever a tussle there?
Not really. I think during my time of studying and doing the bar, it was pretty much head down, do the work, try and do it, try and make a career of doing law. So so there wasn't that sort of creative outlet of, oh, I'm doing photography on the side and I'm enjoying this. That didn't really start then. I've always been sporty, so I've always played a lot of sport. So my outlet growing up and all through that period was probably keeping active and being sporty. I wasn't even into running then, which is a big part of my career and journey now. But it was sports, so it was like team sports. So that was pretty much the leveler for me. Work hard during the week, play hard, sometimes even harder on the weekend with sports and socializing and stuff like that. So the photography wasn't really a part of that sort of process then. It was only after I left and I started working that I think that the photography started to push its way into my life.
And like, I'll come back to that, but another thing I've just thought of is you went to the bar and then you got into civil service. So usually the trajectory would be do the bar, become a barrister.
Yeah.
So why didn't you go down the barrister route?
So basically pupillage. So you have to like get pupillage, and then which is really, really intense and very, very difficult to do. To be honest with you, I'm also one of these people who perhaps I can assimilate and take things on really, really quickly, which means that I don't sometimes push myself as far as I should do. So my grades weren't the best. I still passed. I could have done a lot better if I had been a bit more studious and done the work a bit more. But I've always been one of these people that information comes to me quite quickly. I can do enough to get by, and then that's me. And I see a lot of myself in my son, which is why I am maybe sometimes a bit too hard on him, because again, he is very similar to me in terms of like, he can take on information very quickly. He's very clever, and I see a lot of myself in him. So I'm like, okay, you're definitely not going to turn out the way I do. So I'm going to try and push you a little bit more than I was pushed. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a huge. It can be a positive and a huge kind of negative as well. In that,
Exactly.
you know, you're the kind of character that can apply themselves to a lot of things
Hmm.
and kind of get by.
Yeah.
Almost, what's the word? Not fake it. Fake it's the wrong term. What's the term I'm looking for? I feel similar when I was studying law, in
Yeah.
that, like, whilst I was studying it, I was like, oh, this is not really for me. But I passed it. I went through kind of the intense year
Yeah.
of doing it. And it's like, now looking back, it's like, I sometimes think that I have the ability to learn a lot,
Yeah.
learn complex things,
Yeah.
but then not be really motivated by them.
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt doing it. And sometimes you get a buzz of being able to take on this information and apply it, and then be like sort of like very worldly and knowledgeable about it. There's stuff that I learned 10, 15 years ago that I can still recite now, or I can still apply, and that's amazing to have. And I've got this weird thing of general knowledge where I can remember general knowledge. So like whenever there are quizzes and stuff like that, random facts I can remember. But if you ask me where I went on holiday last year and what I did on that holiday, I could not tell you. Like places and faces, I am awful at. But random facts and memories, I'm your guy. So that's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that as well. Like you just hinted at something. So, how much do you think the going into the law was like a status thing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it always felt nice to be like, yeah, I'm studying for the bar. Yes, I'm doing the bar. People do look at you in a different way, and people are always surprised when always shocked. We're like, oh my God, you are doing the bar. You're training to be a barrister. Blah blah blah. Do you have a wig, etc., and all that sort of stuff. So I must admit that was a nice feeling, and it was nice to be seen in that light. But ultimately, I just wasn't getting any satisfaction from doing it. Like I said, I learned a lot of things. It's shaped who I am, the way I think. But ultimately, there just came a point whereby there was just no fulfillment from me from doing it. I just wasn't getting the gratification from going in and doing the work and then getting any sort of output that was like, yes, this is something that I can see myself doing and enjoy doing for the next 30, 40 years.
Mm, mm. I've got friends still in the law, and like one of them in particular has you can see he has this creative streak. Like he wants to be. He's a frustrated creative, um, and his wrestle is wrestling with the status.
Mm,
Is that, the feeling is that if he leaves the law, he's going to lose that status.
yeah,
He's going to lose that position in the world.
yeah,
So he's kind of valuing that more than, say, his happiness. But
yeah,
then in saying that the happiness part is it's not guaranteed that he leaves and he
yeah.
will be happy.
True.
But yeah, I mean, now that you're into photography, like, do you miss that aspect of the law, having that kind of it being a status symbol?
Uh, not not really, to be honest with you. I think there was a point where I felt maybe not embarrassed, but I felt a little bit funny when people were like, "What did you do before?" And I was like, "Oh, I was a barrister. I was a lawyer. What do you do now? You're a photographer." It's like, what? You went from that to that? So there is that sort of shift of like people see barrister, lawyer here, they see photographer there, but it's the total opposite in terms of where my happiness and where my mental state was in compared to from what I was doing to that. And I've just learned to like, people can view it as however they like, but like the amount of time and effort and stress that I put into being a lawyer and doing that, the law stuff versus the time and effort and stress, it's a similar thing for photography, but the output that I'm getting from it and the joy I'm getting from it is totally different. So it negates it. I would say I'm working just as hard, if not harder, in the photography stuff, but it doesn't feel like work because I'm just doing something that I enjoy doing. So yeah, I do work extremely hard, but sometimes I forget that I am working that hard because it's something that I enjoy doing. I only ever feel that after I've finished the project or finished a long run, and I'm like, why am I so tired? And it's like, because I've been putting in crazy amounts of hours doing stuff, but it just doesn't feel that way once you're in that moment.
Yeah. It's interesting. My cousin put up a post this morning about the work-life balance and how it's a
Hmm.
myth.
Yeah,
And I was thinking of the work-life balance in terms of the work that you do. Like ideally, the work that you do should kind of like fire you up so that, like life just feels like even if you're working, let's say 80% of the time, yeah,
yeah,
hypothetically, you're working 80% of the time. But if that work kind of makes you feel fulfilled and
yeah,
it seeps into the other 20%, which is your life, so, you can have the late nights and, you can cope with the projects, but if you love it, then,
yeah, yeah.
there's your
No, no,
balance, basically.
definitely,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. So what was the eventual push?
So I would say it was around about 2013, 2014. So I had a DSLR camera for maybe a couple of years, and that was a period when all my friends were getting married. So I would always have my camera with me, and I would take it to various weddings and events and stuff like that. And I took some photos at one wedding, and I gave the photos to my friend, and was just like, "There you go." I was never charging or anything like that. And he was like, "These are really good. Like these are better than the guy who I paid to do this. You should really seriously consider like doing this. Like just even part time, just as a thing." And I was like, "Do you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll give it a go." So from there, I basically set up like a small website. This was, I think, pre-Instagram days, so I had like a crazy basic website. Put some photos on there. Facebook was big back then as well, so I set up a Facebook page, and yeah, I just started doing smallish weddings and events, and it sort of like just built up from there. So yeah, predominantly I started as a wedding photographer doing events, and yeah, it kind of snowballed from there.
Okay. And now what's your favorite thing to capture? Because I know you do the wedding stuff, but obviously fitness
Yes,
fitness is part of
yes.
your passion.
So I still do weddings and events, not as many weddings as I did before, but it's predominantly running, so fitness, so anything movement orientated. So I started running in like 2016, just randomly one day. I used to work in Victoria, live in Hackney, and the run from Victoria to from Hackney to Victoria was, I think, like 4 miles, 4.5 miles, something like that. And I was getting really frustrated with the transport to and from, and I was just getting really annoyed because the trains were always delayed and I was always late. So I just thought, let me just run into work. So I ran into work and I just really, really loved it. The freedom, the ability to, get fit and get exercise. I've never done any sort of long distance running at school. I was always a sprinter or in the relay. So most I ever done was like 200 meters. But yeah, I just fell in love with running. And yeah, that's when my running journey began. So 2017, I did London Marathon. And throughout this whole period, I was running on my own. So I didn't join any run crews, any run clubs. I was purely one of these guys who went on the app, looked at a training plan, followed the training plan, ran on my own. I just thought running was a solo sport. So that's what I did. And I was enjoying it, did London, got to mile 19, wheels fell off. Obviously, my training didn't prepare me enough for that. And then I got to mile 21 where Rundem crew were. And I just saw these guys and I'm like, who are these people? Like, music, atmosphere, graffiti on the floor, stencils, and like they were just like literally pushing me through to the rest of the marathon. And I was like, God, I need to run with these guys. So my first ever group one was with Rundem Crew. It took me like 3 months to pluck up the courage to actually run with them after London Marathon, but I did. And then that following year, they were looking for people to take photos at mile 21. And I was like, look, I've only ever done weddings and events, but I'd love to come down and help in anywhere I can. So that was the first time I have taken photos of runners, and then something just clicked. And then my path just went down, capturing movement and runners and running and just the whole thing around, yeah, getting your body active.
So have you? So how much of your work is like kind of wedding photography, and how much of it is fitness and
So I'd
running?
say now wedding stuff is maybe 10%.
Right.
Fitness stuff is about 80%, and the other 10 might be events and other things. But yeah, I'd say running, movement, fitness, about 80% of what I do.
Wow. So I guess, so I assume then you're working for big brands then. The brands are hiring.
Brands, running brands, products which are like, health products, bars, drinks, all those sort of things, clothing, footwear, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. The majority of stuff I do is like with run clubs as well. So if there are running events, because I'd say my USP is that I run and shoot at the same time. So I'll be running whilst taking photos. So merging the two things which I love, which again, I just sort of fell into doing. I just thought one day it would be nice for me to run and try and take photos. And yeah, I kind of like got a knack for it.
You've lucked out, because I hear a lot of the time when it comes to photography, and also in my case, I tried to get into videography, and there's there's the creative freedom that you have, which is very fulfilling, very kind of it drives you,
Yeah,
when you have that creative freedom. And I think a lot of creatives, when they're almost forced or, to do something that's not in their, it's not their route. Maybe a brand or, somebody, a client is basically has a vision and they
yeah,
want you to deliver on that vision.
that vision. Yeah,
Um, and a lot of the time that makes photographers, videographers, creatives in general really frustrated with the journey. But you seem to have lucked out, because you've paired the running with the photography, like
yeah,
two passions of yours.
yeah. It's I like I said, like if you said to me 10, 12 years ago that you would be running for starters, I'd have laughed at your head. You'd laugh, laughed right in your face, because I never ever envisaged running at all. And then, yeah, like you say, to be able to merge the two things I really enjoy doing, like I just have this freedom of when I'm running around and capturing stuff. And the thing is, the camera becomes like an additional part of me, because I'm never really looking at looking through the viewfinder. I'm just basically capturing
Mm.
it on feel kind of thing. So
Hmm.
like I'm feeling what the camera's doing, and I'm
Like
snapping away, and I'm
from
weaving
the
in and
hip.
out from the hip, and I'm
Yeah.
weaving in and out, and I'm looking at angles, and I in my head I always have a picture of what I think I'm capturing.
Hmm.
And it's only until I get home and look through it that I'm like, okay, I have captured it. Yes, I got it. Or, oh no, I didn't. I've got a pin sharp image of a bin in the background and a fuzzy runner. I mean, it still does happen. It's never 100% accurate. But yeah, that's just, yeah, the beauty of it is I just enjoy being in the moment. And I think I do a lot of events where I run the whole course and capture. So on Sunday, I did the Fulham 10K. The longest I've ever run is a half marathon. So I did the big half a few months ago. I've done that a couple of times, and people will say to me like, "Why run the whole thing? Like, what are you doing? Like with that big camera, why are you running the whole course? Why not just cut a few corners?" And for me, I just want to experience the race like every other person who has put in the work and put in the effort to get on that start line. And I want to capture that journey and anyone else who's on that course in exactly the same way. We've all been through the same thing. We've all done the same miles. We all put it in, and I'm just capturing how you feel whilst we're doing that. and sharing conversations along the way is always amazing. Obviously, people are like, mate, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just doing the same thing as you. Come on, we can run together for a little bit. We can have a little bit of a chat, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing, like to be able to share the course with everyone else who's put in the effort and put in the time. So yeah, for me, I'll always do a race from start to end and capture it just to tell that beautiful story.
So that is true documentary style.
Mm.
That's true. Like I was thinking, the other term is like method acting, but it's not quite method acting. Like like you're actually in you almost like you're part of the subject as well as capturing the subject.
Yeah, and I think you get, and I think that's why I'm booked to do certain events, and that's how I market myself, being like I'm telling the story from within the race itself, because there's some amazing photographers who are on the sidelines getting shots from out within, but I'm able to get shots of the runners fully immersed in the race as well as the people who are cheering from the sidelines as well, and you just can't get that shot if you are with them on the sideline as well. So it's just the way it's documented. It's just such a unique perspective, and I think a lot of brands and a lot of companies look at that and go, "Oh, wow, okay, I've never seen our race being captured that way. Would love for you to do that, so we can get that unique perspective of almost what it's like for a runner to run in the race, what they're feeling, what they're seeing, how it looks." And like I say, yeah, I just kind of fell into that role, and it's something which I totally love.
Do you think of the longevity of that?
Well, this is the other thing. I mean, I'm not getting any younger, and people are getting faster. I am now. I've just come back from a 5K run this morning as well. I'm trying to get myself out there, active, doing the strength work, just to keep myself able to do the mileage. Because what was happening, I think maybe a year ago, was I was doing all of these running events, and that was the only running I was doing. So it was quite difficult on the body to keep up. But I am doing a lot more running now. I'm seeing a physio. I'm looking after my body to ensure that I can, for the next few years anyway, keep this going. Longer term than that, I need to figure out what I'm going to do in terms of being able to capture it in the same way, but also know that my time might need to be a little bit more divided, or I need to be a little bit more picky, or choose specific things to run. And oh my god, I should keep that in.
I was going to warn you, but I thought you knew.
I did not. I did not know. That's going to make a good viral clip. Yeah, so I can't even remember what I was saying. Longevity.
Longevity,
yeah. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Cat's thrown me a little bit as well. Yeah, so similar question is almost kind of like almost like you what would be your advice for somebody kind of in a similar position to you? What was it, like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
But so the advice is like, did you build up your photography career before you jumped ship?
Yeah.
And is that what you would advise other people to do?
Yes. So I definitely built up a portfolio of work. I was very confident in what I was doing and the outputs. I almost jumped ship just before the first lockdown, just before the pandemic. So I am very glad I didn't do that, because I would be in a totally different scenario had I had made that leap before. But that was the time where it was closest to me thinking, oh, do you know what? I could probably give this a go. So when we came out of lockdown, I thought, do you know what? It's now or never. Just, I don't know what the future holds, but I just want to give myself an opportunity to see if I can actually do this. And I think the difficulty for me was young family, all the bills and everything to pay for. I had been in the civil service for over 15 years. So, wages would come into my bank account first of every month. I knew exactly how much I was getting, what I was getting, what it was going towards, budgeted and all that sort of stuff. So going from that all my life to being like, okay, now you're freelance, you don't know, how much work you're going to be able to get. Is this income going to be steady? Am I going to be able to survive on it? That was all really, really like nerving. But first 3 to 6 months of when I made the leap, it was quite difficult. And there were moments where I like, did I make the right choice? Am I going to be able to survive on this? Luckily, where I was on a year sabbatical. So they basically said, look, you've got a year, you can have a year off. And then in 9 months' time, let us know if you want to come back. And if you do want to come back, you can come back to your role. If not, we will, release it and fill the role with someone else. So I did have that little safety buffer there in the back of my mind, but ultimately I wanted to do everything I could to ensure it worked. And I think after that 6 month period, the work slowly started to come in, and I was finding my feet a bit more. And I think the thing that I found was because I was able to solely focus on the photography, it just opened my eyes to more opportunities. It allowed me to hone my craft even more because it meant that I wasn't just working late through to the night to edit, to finish a job and then get up and go to work the following day and work a full day. Then during my lunch break, try and do a bit more editing, or late at night, do some more editing. Again, it meant that I was solely able to fully commit to it and learn a few more things as well in my own time, and then go out and network and meet people and meet like-minded people and truly understand the world that I was stepping into. I think that was a very, very big help. And I just would not have been able to do that had I been juggling multiple things at the same time. So yeah.
It's that cushioning, that buffer that also has allowed you a little bit more creative freedom than, other photographers that are kind of
Yeah.
have jumped ship from one career and, kind of putting all of their eggs on photography, all in the photography basket, and, just hating the process because they are having to do it, with literally hands around their throat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. What else was I going to say to you? How was kind of like civil service and like uh, your legal teaching or legal training? How has that kind of seeped into photography? How has that helped your photography?
So in terms of all the back end stuff, so like invoicing, being at the right place at the right time, being on time, all of that stuff is stuff which has been ingrained in me since day one, especially in the legal field. Like you always have to be on time, like you can't be late to court, all that sort of thing. So I'm one of these people who always has to be on time, and I always need to know what I'm doing, and I like to research things, and I'm able to make sure I feel as comfortable as I possibly can going into a scenario, trying to think through what could potentially go wrong or what I potentially need to do. So that has helped me a lot in terms of how I approach my work. A lot of it is spontaneous in terms of I don't really know what I'm going to capture, but I like to give myself the best opportunity to put myself in a position whereby I can allow my creativity just to run free, knowing that I have built up a solid base for being able to be in the right place at the right time, got everything down, know my equipment, know where I'm supposed to be, what I'm doing, what my timings are, all that sort of stuff. So I am very meticulous when it comes to preparation. And I think being in the legal field, being in civil service, that has helped me there in terms of that. So yeah, I think that's those sort of two things there have married up quite well.
So I guess then, there's that cliched question of if you could go back in time, would you have got into photography sooner? But from the sounds of it, you've got, you've got quite a lot of skills that you've picked up, and
Yeah,
buffering that you picked up from the law.
yeah, from the law. I probably wouldn't. I think my journey was my journey for a reason. Maybe if the pandemic hadn't have happened, I would have jumped a little bit sooner. So I would have had a little bit more time under my belt, and I would be maybe a little bit further than where I need to be. I don't know. I'm one of these people that I think I'm always trying to push the envelope. I'm always trying to push myself, trying to think, of, okay, what can I do now? I mean, in terms of the success I've had in the 2 years I've been doing this full time, if you had said to me I'd be where I am now, I would literally have bitten your hand off. But now I'm here. I'm still trying to think. Okay, how can I? What can I do? How can I push myself further? How can I do more stuff? And I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that. So sometimes I need to maybe just take a step back, reflect, and think. Do you know what? You've achieved so much in this time, but I still do have an eye on what do I want to do next, and how can I push the envelope even more, or how can I tell more of those stories. But then having said that, having spoken to you, like sometimes I take for granted that, 80% of my work is running and photography, which is what I love to do. So do you know what I mean? Like how much more out there is there for me to want to do? I'm not doing any jobs that I dislike or am not really interested in. I can't remember the last time I took a photo of something where I was like, I'm only taking a photo of this because I need to get paid. That's not where I am in my career, and that's not where I've been for the past 18 months. So it's a good place to be. I guess I just need to figure out how to refine it even more.
So I'm going to go back to the creative freedom thing because it's
Yeah,
something that I kind of love to talk about. Because you've created your own lane,
yeah,
how when you're dealing with brands,
yeah.
um, like how much are you kind of just left to capture, or do they say this is what we want?
So funny enough, it's pretty much do what you do. A lot of the time, it's just like a lot of people say you capture joy in running and joy in your photos. So like be it weddings or events or running, I I think it's a knack of being in the right place at the right time, but then also understanding human behavior. I don't know. I have a knack of just being able to see things and just before they've happened, so I'm able to capture it. And I think with when it comes to doing either the run clubs or the running events or the fitness stuff, most of the briefs are like, we've seen what you've done before, just kind of recreate that. Really, just show the show the happiness, or show the difficulty or the struggle, or whatever it is. Just show the authenticity of what we are trying to achieve there, and that's kind of what I do. So yeah, the majority of the time is pretty much, yes, we need you to be at X if you can capture this landmark, but outside of that, whatever it is you do, you just do it. And with the way I work and how I work, it's very difficult to capture specific people. So if I'm running a race from start to end, if you see me, you see me. If you don't, you're not going to, because I am also running the course. So if a course double backs, there's a chance I might be able to see you on the opposite side, and et cetera, et cetera. But if I was stood in one place, then I would be able to capture X, Y, and Z, no problem. I'd be able to get so and so. But because I'm doing the event with everyone else, it's very difficult for me to be able to pinpoint specific people, specific things to capture. So I think people are aware of that, and they know that, just capture the general vibe and the general atmosphere. And, if you can get X or Y, that would be brilliant. But if you can't, just do you. So yeah, that's kind of how I work. And that's kind of, the majority of the briefs have been, we'll leave you to do Simon, and we'll be happy with that.
How much of your work do you think can be taught? So how much, could you teach could you teach a photographer to run and a runner to photograph? Like, is that something that
So
is?
So I think there's definitely in terms of like I've learned a lot of stuff myself from like YouTube and various different uh uh courses and stuff like that. But I think in terms of like being in the right place at the right time or figuring out that there's a moment that's about to happen, sometimes that's just like this creative flair that just happens. And like for you to do it consistently, it I think it'll be quite difficult because I do see a lot of photographers and I follow a lot of photographers and I speak to a lot of photographers and I love some of their work. And when I see some of their photos, I'll be like, oh, I never would have thought to shoot it that way. That's a beautiful shot. And I'm sure they look at my work and say the exact same thing. And I always think it would be amazing to see my work from someone else's eyes and not my own. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like I can look at three or four photographers, and if you put their work in front of me, I'll be able to say that is that person's, that is that person's. That I know their style,
Mm.
and I'm pretty certain that people know my style and can tell my work, but I can't because I've already shot it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it
So I'd
does.
love to have that freshness of looking at my work had it not been me who had taken it, just to
Mm.
see what that looks like. But yeah, I don't know. I just have this weird ability to see and feel things, and once I can see something about to happen, know that yes, if I take that shot, then that's going to create some sort of powerful shot that's going to make the person who sees it feel like they're there or feel a certain type of emotion about what's happened.
Mm.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm asking the question is like I just had like a brainstorm. Like, could you, as time goes on,
Hmm.
let's say, it's going to be difficult for you to do all the runs and the photography at the same
Yeah.
time. Um, if you've effectively created a lane that's very unique, um, could you not create an agency where you have a number of, say, runners who are
Yeah.
photographers that could perhaps replicate what you do?
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah,
rather than it just
yeah,
being
definitely.
you yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm definitely not the only person who can do this, and there's definitely, some really, really talented photographers in the space who are doing similar stuff to what I'm doing as well. So yeah, there's nothing preventing anyone from being able to pick up a camera and, run and, be able to take photos as well. And like, yeah, building up that sort of network of people who can do that and all working under the same umbrella would, yeah, definitely be something I would and should look into doing because, like you say, yeah, it's at the moment it's fine, but yeah, there is going to come a point whereby I would need to think about yeah, pushing it to the next sort of level, and
Mm.
obviously the weddings and events where I don't have to run around
Mm.
are often quite nice little bookmarks in between. But I sometimes feel like I'm
Okay, again.
yeah, but I saw her in the corner of my
Yeah.
eye, so this time I'm not gonna be scared. Funny enough, this cat usually hates me, so I don't know why she today decided to spend a lot of time
So
around me.
it's not your cat.
No. So it
Oh,
is
it's
my
your
cat,
cat. Okay.
but like in the house, the cat will never ever like sit or be
Okay.
around me. It
Okay.
would
All
always
right.
be with the kids or with my wife. So today,
Okay.
I'm really really shocked as to why she's decided to spend some quality time.
Well, it's
Uh,
obvious she wants to be on screen. So
well,
yeah.
that's the thing. But yeah, and I always think like when I'm doing a wedding or an event where I don't actually have to run, I feel like I'm almost like cheating the person's time because I'm not being that active. But it's a different type of stress and strain and things. So yeah, I've just got to learn to embrace it.
Going back to the early days, how? So you said that now it's 10% of your
Yeah,
10% of your work is weddings,
yeah,
10% events, and
yeah,
then 80% is kind of running and movement.
yeah,
So in the earlier days, how much of wedding photography was like the lion's share of your work?
yeah. I'd say it was about 60%.
Okay.
60,
Okay.
yeah, it's about 60% weddings, and then the rest of it was events, and then maybe 10-15% would have been the fitness sort of side of it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's massively like swung towards. I think when we came out of lockdown and that big push, especially for running, happened because it was what a lot of people were doing in lockdown. And funnily enough, before lockdown, which was 2019, I think 2018, I had just run my second marathon, which was Berlin, and I was in like I'd say peak condition. So I was like really like strong into my running, and because I was running to work, we had moved offices, so it was even further. It was like a 10K I was running every day to work. So like Monday to Friday, that would be like 10K, and I'd like bush it out in like 45 minutes, 50 minutes with a backpack through traffic, light work. When the pandemic hit and I didn't have that focal point to run to, my running like sort of like slowed down. I just couldn't run around in circles in the park, or if I wasn't going somewhere or having to do something, I just couldn't motivate myself to do it. So like I did Berlin marathon in 3:19. So like in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to get myself down to 3:10. I'm going to do Boston. I'm going to do the big six. I'm going to like do all that sort of stuff. But like, it just sort of like fell by the wayside. So when we came out of lockdown and I started doing the running and the running events, I was like topping up my running a little bit, but I never got to the heights of where I was before. And it's only in the past like 3 months I've really now tried to get myself fit and doing a bit more work just so it's making the workload easier for me. And I'm able to, you know, do semi decent times whilst also photographing the event. And also it gives that authenticity of actually, you know, putting myself through a training block that again, these other people have done. Because what I don't want to do is make it look easy, because that's the last thing. And I think when people see me struggling and see me also, you know, taking my time, it's also quite reassuring that actually, do you know what? He's not just zooming past and like, you know, making it look really easy. It is actually quite difficult. It's difficult running a 10K. It's difficult running a half marathon. It's also difficult, obviously, shooting as well. But it's nice that, you know, everyone's in the same boat.
And you must get like more of a rapport then with people than you would,
Yeah,
you know.
100%, definitely. And again, it shows in the photos of the people that you're getting. You know, they're people who like will pose for you, but there are also other people who are like, you know, genuinely wanting to have a conversation with you and chat to you. And then I'll be talking to them and I'll be snapping away while I'm taking the photos, and I'll try and go in front of them for a little bit and get a shot and then stay back a bit. And the interesting thing, even like when I was doing the Fulham 10K, there was one guy who I was with for maybe about, I'd say, a good 10-15 minutes. We were going back and forth because I was running a little bit further ahead to capture people coming the other way. Then I'd continue my journey. Then I'd catch up with him again, would have another chat. Then I'd stop again, take some photos, and I'd catch him up again, have another chat. And then he was like, "You better come find me at the finish line." And luckily I did. So I got a nice shot of him at the finish as well. So yeah, it's just quite nice because it breaks up the race, not just for me, but for them as well. But it's also a nice way to get through, because yeah, when you're chatting and running with someone, it just makes you forget that you're in a race and that you need to do X more miles to get to the end.
Yeah, flicking through your profile, the most common pose that I see is the
Yeah, yeah. Doing waves like hello.
See, so again, kind of to flip back to that question. So how much of so in my mind, the wedding stuff is more lucrative than the running and fitness stuff.
Yep,
so
definitely.
So then it shows that you've been more passion led than you have been kind of, you know, money led, right?
Yeah. So if I was, so weddings are definitely more lucrative in terms of what you earn on that day. Like if you were to do 2 or 3 of those a month, you'd be laughing. But with them comes a different type of stress, and also like the build up to it, the day, and then the post editing stuff. It's quite a strain. Maybe not on other people, but for me, I do find it quite a big thing to do. So I enjoy them, but the whole like the day is fine, but the build up and then the bit afterwards, I always find a little bit stressful. Not from like a skill point. It's just like make sure you don't lose the images, make sure you're here, make sure nothing goes wrong. Like all of those things are just like swirling, is that like catastrophizing because like with a run, you're like, okay, if I don't get the shot, I don't get the shot. Like, you know what I mean? They've got 50 other images of nice runners here and there. But like for a wedding, like if you don't get that shot, you've got no other opportunity to get that shot again. If you misplace these images or something goes wrong with them, that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. And touch wood, obviously, that's never happened to me before. But your brain is always going down that road and down that route of like, yes, this could potentially happen. But like, I think weddings have taught me. I think that's probably where I got finding the joy in images. Like I must have shot over probably close to 100 weddings. So I would have. So do you know what I mean? You're surrounded by people on that day who love you and care about you and want you to do the best that you can. You've handpicked all these people to share that moment with you, and I've captured it so many times. You just always spot those little things, little stories, and little moments, and like those little touches, or those little glances, or those little friends coming together, being a part of something. Maybe they haven't seen each other for a while, or families who have flown halfway across the world to be together, and all that sort of stuff. So you see those little moments and images, and it just sort of like imprints on your mind. And whenever you go to another one, okay, I'm pretty certain that this is going to happen now. So make sure I'm in the right spot to capture that, or I'm pretty certain that so and so is going to have a really nice moment here. So make sure you're there. So it becomes almost second nature to be able to pick out those moments and see it happening. So that sort of bled, I guess, into my other work of just being able to preempt stuff, or being able to understand that something is developing, and knowing that if I'm right here, I'm pretty certain that we're going to be able to capture something really nice. So yeah.
You did that with our wedding. And,
thank you. I've been waiting for you to say that all.
And I guess our wedding was the least stressful of all the weddings.
Yeah,
that you've ever,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you guys were like Mike Flugway. It was brilliant. No, it was beautiful to be a part of.
Yeah, like I know in other careers and stuff, people seeing the same thing and doing the same thing potentially get jaded. But when you're dealing with such a powerful moment, such emotional moment, it must be kind of life affirming, or seeing those human moments on a regular basis.
Yeah. No, I really love it. I really enjoy it. I just find like being surrounded by so much love it's really heartwarming. So I always absolutely adore capturing weddings and stuff like that. So and then also when I'm doing like the running events as well, the similarity is like what I learned very early on is like people run for very different reasons, and like sometimes it's the beauty in finding those reasons or the photos from those reasons why.
So, I mean, like the kind of the last thing to ask is, do you have any advice that you haven't touched on already for people in a similar position to you?
So I would say, obviously, the old adage, follow your passions and follow your dreams. Yes, but I think do it in a way which you feel comfortable in to a certain point. I mean, sometimes you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and I did have to really push, and credit to my wife, she is the one who I think really pushed me over the edge. So I was teetering and I was thinking, I'm in and ahhing it, and she was just like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Like honestly, like just do it. If you don't succeed, go go back to what you're doing before. We'll figure something else to do. You know, there's other things that you can do, but just give it a go. You like, if you're that passionate about it and you like knowing you and like how much you've put into it so far, just imagine what you can do if this is the sole thing that you are focusing on. So I think sometimes you need to have that little person, you know, just giving you a bit of a nudge to be like, actually, do you know what? Just go for it. Because I think a lot of the time we're scared of failure, but you know, I like, my journey has not been linear at all. I have made mistakes. I've made, you know, you know, had like certain issues down the way with like either, you know, missing certain shots or the equipment. So I've forgotten bits of equipment or things here, there. But those are the moments that you learn from that, you know, the further on you go down the line, you don't make those mistakes again. I'm one of these people, I'll make a mistake, but I will not make the same mistake twice, sort of thing. So everything that you do, you need to learn from, and you learn from the things that you don't do properly even more. So I'd say just go for it, because like I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I knew what I was doing to a certain extent when I took the lead, but I didn't know the ins and outs of it, especially with the running stuff and like how I would be capturing things or how I'd be doing or what my workflow would be, how I would get the images out quickly or how I would be able to turn around stuff and all that stuff. I just learned on the fly and it just sort of came to me. And like I said, I would never have been able to do that or put myself in a position had I not solely focused on doing it 100%. So it's just one of those things, like no one has the answers. Even the people who look like they've got the answers don't have the answers. So you've just got to, you know, really just give yourself every opportunity to make it a success. And if you're really truly passionate about it, it will work.
Would you say then that your wife noticed that you were either depressed or frustrated?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm certain I vocalized it as well. And I think my wife, both her parents worked for themselves and she works for herself as well. So she had a total different mindset in terms of this ability to set your own terms, work for yourself, do what you're passionate about, do what you enjoy doing, build something from the ground up. I never really had that mindset. So I think for her, she could always see that, you know, this is something that is viable for you. This is something you can do. Whereas in the first 5, 6, 7 years of me doing like the photography part time, I never really ever thought, do you know what? You could be a photographer. You don't have to do the other stuff. You could solely commit. That never really was on the cards. I only ever saw it as like, oh, this is a nice little supplement to what I'm earning. I'm able to get my creativeness out. It's good. It's a bit of a release, but I'm still going to go back to the 9 to 5. So like, yeah, I never ever thought I'd be in this position now. And I'm so grateful that I am, because, you know, it's allowed me to have so much more flexibility. It's allowed me to have so much more time. It's allowed me to follow the things I enjoy doing and the things I love doing. I can get to spend more time at home with the wife, although she doesn't appreciate that sometimes. I can see the kids go to their plays, go to their football matches, all that sort of stuff. I can pick and choose when I work, how I work, and like having that flexibility, especially at my age, is like unbelievable. So yeah, truly grateful.
I thought I was done for questions, but you've just made me think of another one. Are you? This is going to maybe a sensitive question, but are you earning more money now than you were as a lawyer?
I am earning way more money now than I was when I was a lawyer. Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely been a positive change, in terms of like monetary, but also from a pure like mentally and also time. Yeah. Across the board, it has been better.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't been by chance. That has been down to a lot of hard work and a lot of hours and a lot of, you know, fine tuning what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And I think, yeah, I think the difficulty I have is I am the brand, so it's me. So like, if you want me to work for you, it's going to be me who's coming to do the shots, and you know what you're going to get, and you know what type of service I'm going to provide. I think scaling it going forward, it's trying to figure out how I can keep that you're going to be getting a service from me, but not me actually there or me pressing the button. And I think that's something I need to figure out. But yeah, up until this point, it's been positive, and it's been good. Down to a lot of hard work though.
All right, Simon. Well, thanks so much, man. This has been awesome.
Take
Nice
care.
one,
Great
mate.
speaking to you.
Cheers. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.